It started as an ordinary morning, the kind where you think nothing extraordinary could possibly happen. The sun filtered lazily through the kitchen blinds as I poured my coffee, savoring the aroma. Jacob had already left for work, leaving behind the usual empty cereal bowl on the counter and a quick text that read, "Good luck with your deadline today. Love you." I smiled at the message, though deadlines weren't exactly a reason to celebrate. My work as a freelance graphic designer often blurred the line between chaos and calm, and today seemed no different. Until it was. As I sat down at the dining table, my laptop hummed to life. I opened my favorite social media app for a quick scroll, my fingers flicking past vacation photos, inspirational quotes, and adorable pet videos. It wasn't until I reached a post from a local influencer that my scrolling slowed. The photo was from a glitzy charity gala. Glittering chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft golden glow over a crowd of well-dressed attendees. But it wasn't the setting that made my breath catch. It was Jacob, my husband. He was there, in the middle of the frame, looking sharp in a tailored suit I hadn't seen before. His arm hovered near the waist of a striking woman in a sleek black dress. She was laughing, leaning slightly toward him as though they shared a private joke. The caption below the photo read, "A night to remember, behind the scenes at the charity gala." The coffee mug in my hand suddenly felt heavier. My thumb hovered over the screen, my mind racing to piece together what I was seeing. Jacob hadn't mentioned attending a gala. He hadn't mentioned anything out of the ordinary that evening, except that he was working late. Working late? I whispered to myself, the words sour on my tongue. I stared at the photo, hoping I'd somehow misinterpreted it, but no amount of squinting or denial could change what was plainly in front of me. There he was, smiling, relaxed, and secretive. Why wouldn't he tell me? I muttered aloud, the words echoing in the quiet house. The nagging doubt in my chest grew heavier as I set my mug down. I couldn't stop staring at the woman. Who was she? What was her connection to Jacob? My mind offered no comforting answers, only more questions that burrowed deep and refused to let go. I called Olivia, my best friend, before I could second-guess myself. She picked up on the second ring. "Ellie? Everything okay?" she asked, her voice warm and familiar. "I don't know," I admitted, the words tumbling out. "I think I just found something weird." "Weird how?" she pressed. I hesitated. "I just saw a photo of Jacob online. He was at some gala last night, but he never told me about it. And there's this woman with him, Liv. I don't know, too close." There was a pause on the other end. Then Olivia said carefully, "Ellie, that doesn't sound great, but it also doesn't mean what you think it does. Have you talked to him about it?" "No," I admitted. "He's at work, and honestly, I don't even know what I'd say." "You say what you're feeling," Olivia replied. "You tell him you saw the photo and ask for an explanation. Maybe it's something innocent." "Maybe," I echoed, though my voice lacked conviction. "Ellie," Olivia said softly, "don't spiral until you know the full story. Promise me you'll talk to him first." "Okay," I said, though I felt far from okay. "I'll talk to him tonight." After we hung up, I stared at the photo again, memorizing every detail. The elegant arch of the woman's dress, the way Jacob's smile reached his eyes. My coffee had gone cold by now, but I barely noticed. All I could think about was what kind of story Jacob would tell when I showed him the picture, and whether I'd believe it. The evening felt heavier than usual, like the air itself had absorbed the tension in my chest. I paced the living room, phone in hand, rehearsing the confrontation over and over in my head. The photo burned in my mind, its details etched so deeply that I couldn't unsee it if I tried. The sound of Jacob's car pulling into the driveway jolted me from my thoughts. My heart thudded in my chest as I heard the familiar clink of his keys in the lock. I froze for a moment, gripping my phone tightly before taking a deep breath. Just talk to him. Don't lose control. "Hey, Ellie," Jacob said as he walked in. His tie slightly loosened and his jacket slung over his arm. "Smells like you ordered pizza again. Rough day?" I didn't answer. I just stood there, watching him, my thoughts racing. He stopped mid-stride, his expression shifting from casual to concerned. "What's wrong?" he asked, setting his jacket on the back of the couch. I held up my phone, the screen glowing with the photo. "This," I said, my voice trembling. "Care to explain?" Jacob's brow furrowed as he stepped closer to look. His face was unreadable as he studied the image, but he didn't immediately react. That only made my anxiety spike. "Ellie," he started, his tone cautious. "It's not what you think." I felt a bitter laugh bubbling in my throat. "Really? Because it looks pretty straightforward to me. You're at a gala I didn't even know about, with some woman I've never seen before, and you're smiling like you're having the time of your life. So please, tell me what I'm supposed to think." Jacob sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Her name is Chloe. She's a journalist." I raised an eyebrow. "A journalist? And that explains everything, does it?" He stepped closer, his voice soft but insistent. "Ellie, listen. I was at the gala for work. I couldn't talk about it beforehand. It was all part of a confidentiality agreement." "That's convenient," I snapped. "A confidentiality agreement? Jacob, we're married. You don't think I deserve to know where you're spending your evenings?" "It wasn't about keeping secrets from you," he said, his voice rising slightly. "It was about protecting the project. It's complicated." I threw my hands in the air. "Everything's always complicated with you lately. Do you know how it feels to see this photo and wonder if I'm the only one who doesn't know what's going on in my own marriage?" Jacob stepped back, his expression hardening. "I didn't do anything wrong. You're jumping to conclusions without giving me a chance to explain." I laughed bitterly. "Then explain. Tell me something, anything that makes sense. Because right now this looks a lot like betrayal, Jacob." He looked at me, his jaw tightening. For a moment I thought he was going to say something, but instead he shook his head. "I can't," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Not yet." My chest tightened. "You can't, or you won't." Jacob's eyes softened, and I hated how sincere he looked. "Ellie, you just have to trust me." I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in like a stone in my gut. Trust him? After seeing that photo? After feeling so completely shut out? My voice came out barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can." The silence between us felt deafening. Jacob took a deep breath and reached for my hand, but I pulled away. The hurt in his eyes was unmistakable, but it did little to dull the ache in my chest. "I need some air," I muttered, grabbing my coat and heading for the door. I didn't wait for his response. As I stepped outside, the cold night air stung my face, but it was a welcome distraction from the chaos swirling inside me. Trust. The word echoed in my mind, heavy and fragile. If he wasn't going to give me answers, how was I supposed to trust him? And if I couldn't trust him, what was left of us? I walked aimlessly down the street, my thoughts a tangled mess of doubt and frustration. For the first time in years, I felt like a stranger in my own life. The house was quiet the next morning, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of floorboards. Jacob had already left for work, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my doubts. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at the photo again. It felt like it was mocking me, daring me to find the answers I craved. I decided I couldn't just wait for Jacob to open up. If he wasn't going to tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. I started with his calendar. He was meticulous about scheduling. Meetings, phone calls, even reminders to pick up dry cleaning. I scrolled through the past few weeks, looking for anything unusual. Sure enough, last Thursday evening was blank. No meetings, no working late, just an empty gap where that gala fit perfectly. Frustration bubbled to the surface. Of course, I muttered. He wouldn't leave breadcrumbs. Next, I checked his credit card statements. Most of the charges were ordinary. Gas stations, grocery stores, a couple of takeout orders. But then I saw it. A charge from a luxury suit rental company. The date was 2 days before the gala. "Suit rental?" I whispered, my fingers tightening around the edge of the laptop. Jacob owned plenty of suits. Why would he need to rent one? Before I could spiral further, I called Olivia. She picked up almost immediately. "Ellie, what's going on? Did you talk to Jacob?" she asked. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I did, but he didn't tell me much. Just more of the same. It's complicated. Trust me, blah blah blah." Olivia groaned. "Seriously? So, what's your next move?" "I'm digging," I admitted, feeling a little guilty about it. His calendar, his credit card statements, anything that might explain what's going on. "Ellie," Olivia said gently, "I get why you're doing this, but be careful. You might find something you don't want to." "That's what I'm afraid of," I said quietly. There was a pause before Olivia spoke again. "What if you just asked him directly? Like, no dancing around it. Just lay it all out." I laughed bitterly. "I tried that. He just clammed up. I don't know, Liv. I feel like I'm losing him." "You're not losing him," Olivia said firmly. "You're just caught in a mess that needs untangling. And if anyone can do it, it's you." Her words were comforting, but they didn't silence the nagging voice in my head. "Thanks, Liv. I'll keep you updated." After we hung up, I stared at the suit rental charge again. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he'd torn his favorite suit and didn't want to tell me. Or maybe it was something more. That night, I waited for Jacob to come home, determined to stay calm. When he walked through the door, I greeted him with a forced smile. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "How was your day?" "Busy," he said, setting his bag down. "Yours?" I hesitated. "Eventful. I was going through some receipts earlier, and I noticed a charge for a suit rental last week." "What was that about?" Jacob froze, his expression unreadable. "It was for the gala," he said finally. "I didn't want to wear something they might recognize." "They?" I pressed, leaning against the counter. "Who's they, Jacob? What are you not telling me?" He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Ellie, I told you, I can't talk about this yet." I crossed my arms. "Do you even realize how hard it is to trust you right now? Every time I try to get answers, you give me more questions." "I know," he said, his voice soft. "And I hate that this is hurting you, but I promise I'm not doing anything to betray you." "Then why does it feel like you are?" I asked, my voice breaking. Jacob reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "I'm going for a walk," I said, grabbing my coat. "I need some air." I didn't wait for his response. As I walked out into the cool night, my mind raced with all the unanswered questions. "Trust," he kept saying. But how could I trust someone who couldn't, or wouldn't, let me in? As the stars twinkled faintly above, I made a silent vow to find the truth, no matter what it cost. The house felt colder that evening, even though the thermostat was set to the usual temperature. The kind of cold that seeps into your chest and settles there, heavy and unshakable. Jacob had been quieter than usual since our last conversation, as if carefully measuring his words. I didn't push him this time. My exhaustion had tipped over into a kind of resigned calm. It wasn't until after dinner, when the kids were tucked away with homework, that he finally broke the silence. "Ellie," he said softly, standing in the doorway of the living room. His voice startled me. I hadn't realized he'd been watching me. "Can we talk?" I looked up from my laptop, closing the screen slowly. "I'm listening." He sat down on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. I noticed the way his fingers fidgeted, a rare crack in his usual composure. "There's something I need to tell you." I leaned back, crossing my arms. That would be a nice change. His shoulders sagged at my tone, but he didn't argue. Instead, he began. "The woman in the photo, her name is Chloe Miller. She's an investigative journalist. We've been working together on a project." My heart raced as the words tumbled out of his mouth. "A project," I repeated. "What kind of project involves you sneaking off to galas and not telling your wife?" "It's not that simple," he said, his voice calm but firm. "She's been investigating corruption within a major charity organization. They've been laundering money, Ellie. Millions of dollars. I've been helping her gather evidence." I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. "Helping her? How?" Jacob hesitated. "I made a large anonymous donation. It was the only way to gain access to their inner circle." The pieces of the puzzle started clicking together in my mind, but it didn't make the picture any less infuriating. So, you've been lying to me, shutting me out, all to play some undercover hero? I wasn't trying to shut you out, he said quickly. I was trying to protect you. I let out a sharp laugh. Protect me? From what? From them, he said, leaning forward, his tone urgent. Ellie, these people aren't just criminals. They're dangerous. If they found out I was involved, if they thought you or the girls knew anything, it wouldn't just be me they'd come after. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. The danger he was talking about wasn't abstract. It was real, and it terrified me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice trembling. You didn't trust me enough to handle the truth? It wasn't about trust, Jacob said, his voice softer now. It was about keeping you safe. If something had happened to you or the kids because of this, I couldn't live with myself. I stared at him, anger and fear swirling together in my chest. Do you even realize what this has done to me? How it felt to see that photo and think? My voice broke, and I turned away, blinking back tears. Jacob moved closer but stopped just short of touching me. I know, he said quietly. I should have told you sooner. I see that now. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the faint hum of the heater. Then, I took a shaky breath and turned back to him. So, what happens now? Are you still involved? No, he said firmly. Chloe has everything she needs. The investigation is wrapping up, and the authorities are moving in. It's over. The weight of his words sank in, but the relief I expected didn't come. It might be over for them, but it's not over for us, I said. You kept this from me, Jacob. That doesn't just go away. He nodded, his expression somber. I know. I hope we can find our way back to trusting each other. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, I saw the man I married. Not a liar, not a stranger, but someone who had made a flawed, desperate choice. It didn't erase the hurt, but it softened the edges. I don't know if I can trust you yet, I admitted, but I'm willing to try. His shoulders relaxed, and he nodded. That's all I can ask. The air between us felt fragile, like a delicate truce, but it was something, a starting point. As I watched Jacob head upstairs to check on the kids, I realized this wasn't just about him earning back my trust. It was about us rebuilding something together. For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, that was possible. The final gala felt different. The venue, filled with glittering chandeliers and well-dressed attendees, looked like something out of a movie. I stood in the back of the room, clutching a glass of water I'd barely touched. Jacob was on stage next to Chloe, his posture relaxed but focused. I hadn't seen that version of him in a while, the confident, capable man I fell in love with. It stirred something in me, though I wasn't sure if it was admiration or frustration. The room quieted as Chloe took the microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice steady. Over the past year, we've uncovered substantial evidence of corruption within this organization. Thanks to the support of generous individuals, some of whom prefer to remain anonymous, we've been able to bring those responsible to justice. I caught Jacob glancing at me from the stage, his eyes searching for something in mine. I didn't look away, though I wasn't sure what I wanted him to see. Approval? Forgiveness? Maybe just acknowledgement. When the presentation ended, applause erupted. Jacob and Chloe stepped down, and I stayed where I was, unsure if I should join him. But he made the decision for me, weaving through the crowd until he stood right in front of me. Ellie, he said, his voice low but clear above the hum of conversations around us. You did it, I said, gesturing to the stage. You and Chloe. We did, he admitted, his lips curving into a small smile. But none of it would have been possible without you. I raised an eyebrow. Me? I didn't even know what was happening until last week. He shook his head. You didn't need to know. You've always been my anchor, Ellie. Even when I didn't deserve it. I wanted to hold on to my anger, to remind him how much his secrecy had hurt me. But there was something about the way he looked at me, earnest, hopeful, maybe even a little scared, that chipped away at my resolve. "You still have a lot to make up for," I said, crossing my arms. "This doesn't erase everything, Jacob." "I know," he said quickly, "but I want to try. I'll do whatever it takes." For a moment I said nothing, letting the weight of his words settle between us. Finally, I sighed. "Well, you can start by never keeping something like this from me again." "Deal," he said, and there was something almost boyish in the way he smiled. "Does that mean I can buy you dinner?" I snorted. "We're at a catered event." "Fine," he said, grinning now. "How about dessert?" Despite myself, I laughed. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't felt in weeks. "We'll see," I said, but I let him take my hand. Later that night, after the gala had ended and the kids were asleep, Jacob and I sat on the back porch. The air was crisp, and the stars were unusually bright. We didn't say much at first, just listened to the quiet hum of the neighborhood. "Ellie," Jacob said eventually, breaking the silence. "I know I can't fix everything overnight, but I want you to know I'll never put you through something like this again." I nodded, staring at the stars. "I hope not, Jacob. I really do." He reached for my hand, his touch tentative, like he wasn't sure if I'd pull away. I didn't. "I missed this," he said softly. "Just being with you." I glanced at him, the sincerity in his eyes cutting through the lingering doubt in my chest. "I missed it too," I admitted. We sat there for a while, letting the silence do what words couldn't: heal, rebuild, and remind us of what was still worth fighting for. Every relationship has its challenges, its moments of doubt, and its triumphs. Have you ever faced a situation where trust was tested or communication felt impossible? How did you navigate it? And what lessons did you learn? We'd love to hear your thoughts on Eleanor and Jacob's journey. What resonated with you? What surprised you? Or even what you might have done differently in their shoes? Share your story or reflections in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. Your experiences could inspire someone else who's facing their own challenges in trust, love, and forgiveness. And if you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Together, let's build a community where we can connect, support, and grow. We're listening, and your story matters. It took time, more than I expected, for things to feel normal again. But we worked at it, one day at a time. Jacob kept his promise to be open, and I worked on letting my guard down. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, I found myself scrolling through photos from the gala. I paused on one of the two of us, taken at the end of the night. We were smiling, his arm draped over my shoulder, my head tilted toward his. It wasn't perfect, but it was us, imperfectly trying. And somehow that felt enough. "Looking at something interesting?" Jacob asked, slipping into bed beside me. "Just us," I said, showing him the photo. He smiled. "We make a good team." "We're getting there," I said, setting the phone down and turning off the light. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we really were.